to be dyeing some leftover batting. This is so soft. It's from Fairfield World. I'd used it for another project, and this was a scrap that I had left over. I always save my scraps because you can use them for lots of different crafting purposes. I want this to be Halloween colors, so I am going to be dyeing it. I'm using Ultra Dye, but you can really use any dye product. And of course, buckets and a bucket and gloves. I've got just a little bit of hot water in there because I want to soak my batting first. It'll just make it easier to get this color throughout it if I dilute it a little bit with water. I'm going for a kind of streaky look, dirty look. If I wanted a more even finish, I'd use an actual dye. I'm going with this deep purple color, which I love for Halloween. I know black and orange are popular, but I really like to use purple with orange and then throw in a little green. I just think those are fun Halloween colors. So you can see this dye is kind of thick. I'm just going to make sure to coat all of this. When I'm done, I'm going to wring out the excess and then hang this outside to dry. I'm going to rinse this bucket outside too. I don't want to ruin my sink. So as you can see, some areas are darker, some are lighter. There's like a right side and a wrong side, where one side seems to hold the color better. I'm going to leave those. I like having some patchy areas. I think that's pretty good. I'm going to head outside to wring this out and hang it to dry. While I wait for my dyed batting to dry, I'm going to start assembling the body, the structure of this piece. So for the head, I'm using the top of this decor piece that I found at the dollar store. I've got a base. I've got a dowel rod for the body. Use a flat piece of wood, anything you can find, no one's gonna see it, to build out the shoulders so that we can attach the hands to it. And for that, I just went into my yard and looked for some cool old sticks that kind of looked like hands. And then to stabilize everything, I'm using poly pellets that I'm going to put on the base as a weight so that my piece doesn't tip over, because the head's going to be a little heavy, the arms are going to make it top heavy. So these poly pellets are a great weight that I can add to the bottom that no one's going to see, and it'll hold everything together. This is what my base looks like after I assembled it. I'm going to turn it around so you can see the back. See how basic it is? I've just got a wood round plaque for the base. I've got a dowel rod for the body, a flat wood stick for the shoulders. I have hot glued on some sticks here. I went ahead and I hot glued some chenille wrap that I wrapped around to hold it in place. I don't know if you need that, but I just wanted to enforce it. I have hot glued on the head that I got from Dollar Tree. It came with this fabric, so I'm gonna go ahead and keep that on to hide my poly pellets. I'm gonna fill up some bags and tape them onto the body here, just at the base, to give it stability because I don't want this to flip over. And then I'll hide my bags with this fabric. The cape, or the cloak, or whatever you want to call it for our scary pumpkin man, is the batting that I dyed purple. And a lesson that I learned the hard way, I wanted the color to be really vibrant, so I didn't rinse out the dye. I soaked it, then I took it outside and laid it out to dry. And you know, it's not as hot as it used to be because it's fall, so it was taking a long time to dry. And while it was damp, I thought, I'll just throw this in the dryer and speed things up. Don't do that. I'll plug in a picture here of what my dryer looked like. It's a brand new dryer, you guys. My other dryer was 10 years old and finally died. I got this new one. Stained the inside purple everywhere. Fortunately, I was able to clean it out. I hadn't planned on spending my day cleaning out my brand new dryer, but I got the paint out, the dye out, and here's my fabric ready to go. So first up, let me put my base on, my poly pellets base, and then I'll start measuring and cutting this for the cloak. As you can see, I kept this really simple. These are sandwich bags filled with the poly pellets, and then I use clear packaging tape to tape them on. And I'm going to hide that by simply hot gluing this fabric around it to cover up that base. So what I've done so far, I cut a triangle to cover up the head, and I pinched some of the corners together and hot glued them so that it looks more like a cloak and less like a grandma. I used some extra pieces just to cut flaps. I took some of my scraps and just hot glued them on to cover this front. And this is just kind of the base of the cloak. Here's the cloak that's gonna go over its head. I folded and cut the fabric so that it's long enough to cover the front and the back, that it reaches from arm to arm. And then I cut a hole on top. So I'm just gonna slip it over the head like that. There he is. I'm gonna add some hot glue so I can shape this on the arms. And then I'm going to take my scissors and start cutting some fringe here so it looks really spooky and creepy. Okay, so I know the front looks really flat, but let me show you what I've done to the back here. See, I started cutting fringe and now it's got movement, it's got shape. It looks completely different once you add these fringes. So all I'm doing here, flip them around, just start at the bottom and just cut strips. Make them different sizes, make some tapered at the end, some flat at the end, and you'll see it start to take shape. If you have seen my octopus costume tutorial, this is similar to how we cut the waves that went around the octopus dress. If you haven't checked that out, please do. That's one of my favorite costumes so far. My daughter loves it. And it's done. I added a little spider for detail. And it's ready to be displayed.